And at this point in time, it really just seems like a foregone conclusion. TikTok is going to be banned in the US. TikTok is going to push back on that ban with perhaps a protracted legal fight. Where do we go next, do you think?
Yeah, well, it certainly does feel like the clock is ticking for TikTok. Like you mentioned, it feels inevitable that this bill is going to become law. It was really smart for the U.S. House to include this bill in a package for foreign aid. There are obviously a lot of foreign policy concerns at play here that are outside of TikTok's control, but could ultimately play a determining role in its fate here. As you also mentioned, of course, TikTok is planning to wage what I believe will be a lengthy and intense legal battle. And what that means, though, is that this isn't necessarily the end. I'm framing it more as a new chapter in TikTok's drawn-out fight to survive here in the U.S. So we are still ways away from a TikTok-less America, but certainly as this bill advances, it does seem that the days are numbered for TikTok, at least how it currently operates here in the U.S.
And as we know, the US is the most important market for TikTok. It is present in a variety of other countries or regions. Do you think that TikTok can survive if it doesn't have its primary user base, or where it's getting most of its revenue from?
I mean, it's a great question, right? TikTok only, or the U.S. only accounts for about 10% of TikTok's global users, but it accounts for up to or close to 50% of TikTok's worldwide ad revenues. And advertising, of course, is a core part of its business. So it is a very lucrative market for TikTok, and it would be a huge blow if it wouldn't be able to operate here. Now, TikTok also, of course, has other lines of business here in the U.S., including e-commerce. It's pushed really heavily into shopping through TikTok Shop. And so it's really counting on the U.S. to bring in revenue for the company. And again, it would have major ramifications on its business if it were to disappear from here.
Yeah, Jasmine, there's so many hypotheticals involved with this case and where it goes. And I mean, one possibility, if TikTok was divested, well, who would buy it? And what would happen to the data that is gathered over the years that the lawmakers are so worried about?
Yeah, both are excellent questions. I mean, I think it'll be hard to find a credible and approvable buyer. I mean, first, the buyer would need to have deep pockets, and many of the companies that could afford to buy TikTok would be no-goes because of regulatory and antitrust hurdles here. Now, of course, there are some buyers that have been circulating, and I'm sure that more buyers will throw their hat in the ring. It is a company that, you know, a lot of companies would like to get their hands on, particularly because of the coveted algorithm. I do think, you know, one of the things that's going to determine what a potential sale looks like is whether or not the algorithm is included. It will, you know, impact the price tag of TikTok. I think, you know, without it, it'll be probably valued less and maybe expand the list of potential buyers. But still, it's not going to be an easy task. Also, considering the fact that it's not just about the money. TikTok, of course, is an app that's heavily scrutinized. So whoever buys it would have to have a strong stomach as well.
Well, TikTok, of course, has a number of US-based competitors. Which of them would stand to benefit the most if it could no longer operate?
Yeah, the biggest beneficiaries would be Meta and, of course, Google, both in terms of users and ad dollars, because of Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts are the most natural fit for displaced TikTok users here. They're not exactly replacements. You can replicate the technology, but you can't quite replicate the culture. And of course, their user bases are somewhat different. And, you know, TikTok is a smaller ad player than Meta and Google, but it's by no means small. We're expecting it to bring in about $10 billion in U.S. ad revenues this year, assuming, of course, that it does not get banned in 2024. That would still be incremental revenues, though, for both Meta and Google. Not all of the reallocated ad dollars would go to those companies, and their ad businesses are still much bigger. We're expecting Meta to bring in about $64 billion in U.S. ad revenues this year. And then, of course, there's a long list of other companies that stand to benefit from Snapchat, which is another social media player. Its use cases are different, but its user base is very similar, all the way to Amazon, which I'm sure would breathe a sigh of relief if TikTok Shop were to disappear from the US.